I'm going to welcome everybody. Thank you for finding your way here to our webinar and our interview with Andrea Graham. My name is Cammie Smith, and Fanfare is our new interactive part of the magazine. It is an opportunity for us to partner with sponsors and bring contemporary and compelling artists and authors live to our creative community. This is not a smoothly produced TV program with lots of cameras and editors. It's simply live conversation with artists we really want to hear from. The Heart of Fiber Art Now is our quarterly magazine, and we hope you subscribe. And we'll get to Andrea here in a minute. I see people are looking for Andrea, but don't worry, she's coming on. We want to thank our friends at New England Felt Supply for being today's Fanfare sponsor. New England Felt Supply jumped on board early when we launched Fiber Art Now magazine. And thanks to support like theirs and all our subscribers, this fall we began our 4th year of publishing, which is pretty exciting. So this brings me to our guest today, Andrea. Andrea was on our advisory board. I'm going to pop you in there, Andrea. Andrea was on our advisory board very early on, right from the start. And let's see here, I'm grabbing all my papers because I've got notes and things everywhere. But I wanted to say, to start with, when I read Andrea's bio, the first line was like, oh my, that just nails who she is. So let me read directly from the first line of her bio. The career of an artist must be in perpetual motion, or opportunities are missed and deadlines passed. It can be exhausting and daunting, but so rewarding. Well, if any of you follow Andrea on Facebook or follow her blog, you know that she is perpetual motion and has things going on in all corners of the globe. So, and I know we're going to hear a little bit about those things, and I hope everybody's enjoying the visual feast behind Andrea, all that felt and that beautiful warmth of her studio there. So Andrea, let's start with something about your creative evolution as an artist. Let me preface all this by saying a lot of our guests jumped on Facebook and gave us questions, and on Twitter we got lots of questions, so I'm going to infiltrate those. But if anybody has any questions on the chat room, please let me know, because I'll be reading that on the right-hand side as well. So through all of your work, some of it seems very organic in shape and feel, and some very colorful, playful, and whimsical, while other work that you do is monochromatic and has more of a weighty feel. Are those different approaches from different periods of your life, or is it just simply a response to an idea or your feelings at that moment? I don't know. Can you share your thoughts with us?
Sure, I can. The recent monochromatic work is kind of a response to a few different things. It is, in a way, me kind of stripping away a lot of the complexity and detail, and just kind of really getting back to honoring the material, and just really kind of focusing on light and shadow and about the material. So for me, those pieces are less about, I don't know, I don't want to say trying to prove something, because I don't approach any of my work in that way. But the colorful ones are, you know what, they're just fun. I think a lot of people can relate to them. I think myself, I have a bit of a sense of humor, so I can often approach a serious matter or a concept in a playful way, and then I think that means it's a little less in your face, and I think a little more accessible and relatable for people. So those are two bodies of work that are kind of always happening simultaneously.
Well, how much of your work is based on exploring and experimenting with material?
Well, I mean, I feel that at this stage I've been working with the material for such a period of time that I do have a degree of technical skill. So there's not a lot of play in the sense that I'm going to wonder what happens. I'm very purposeful in my practice, so if I'm coming into the studio to make something, I often will go with things that there's a degree of predictability, or like I said, because of my experimentation over many years, I kind of have that degree of predictability anyway. So I might consider perhaps a sculpture that I want to look a certain way, and I will select the right wool for that appearance. So because I've worked with many different types of wool, there is that degree of predictability.
So does your environment then help tweak, you know, are you sketching things out ahead of time and getting ideas, or is it more of a gray day? Does that add to that sense of, you know, where you're going to go when you walk in your studio?
When I come in my studio to work on something, I pretty much know what I'm working on and what I'm going to be doing. And a lot of my ideas come from maybe a conversation, and I've jotted down a word in my sketchbook, or it might be a conversation I might have had with somebody about an idea. I was meeting with an artist the other day, and we were talking about the concept of time. So, you know, those kinds of things as an artist, they kind of mull around and live within you and kind of just become part of your creative process, and then your hands and materials are just a conduit for those ideas and those little emotions that are captured at the time that you have those conversations, or see a visual or jot down a word.
I love the fact that you use the word purposeful. I think that's, I don't know, I just find a lot of heart with that word.
Yeah. And purposeful in the sense that I don't want people to feel that coming in the studio and not really knowing what you're going to make is a bad thing, because it's not. I mean, if I'm stuck creatively, sometimes it's good just to keep your hands in the materials rather than feeling like, well, I don't have an idea, so nothing's worthy of creating. So, yeah.
I know it. Well, I'm going to pop up the image of your colorful pods here. Hope everybody can see that. I had a lot of people. Wait, we got Victoria, my tech support there.
Hi, Victoria.
There we go. Yeah, no, the other ones were great, but these are good too, Victoria. Those ones you had up there a minute ago.
And those two sets of sculptures you just showed are actually completely different techniques, so it's a great comparison, the two of them.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Great.
So, and yeah, let's talk about these. People were asking, are they hollow in shape, and how tall? What method do you use to get that shape? And of course, what was the inspiration for these pieces?
Yeah. So the inspiration started with my pod series that started a number of years ago. When my children were little, I was trying to feed them really well and very healthy, and was very frustrated with the concerns of pesticides and things that we were doing to our food sources. So I made a series of sculptures that were speaking to, if what we were doing to our food were manifested in a physical way, would we still want to eat these vegetables and fruits. So, that series kind of evolved, and that's kind of where they've come from. And then they developed feet for some reason. I don't know. And then I bent little toes, and then I found that, depending on how those toes were positioned, they were very expressive. And I love when they're together in a grouping. There's this real kind of communication between them, which I really love. So you know what, they're fun, and you can fit a variety of things on there, and color, and the fiber on those is short fiber merino from New England Felting Supply, and it is fantastic for sculpture. You get this beautiful smooth sueded surface, so that's a situation where depending on the type of wool you use in these forms, the appearance can vary. So as far as the construction, those are actually solid wool. And it's a technique that I use that I've taught in countries all over the world and will continue to do in the coming year, which is great. And this class actually premiered at New England Felting Supply. So
nice.
yeah.
Well, I know they always get an exciting response whenever we post those around on our social media. So that's always fun. Hey, Victoria, can you put the other one back on that you had? One more. Click one. There we go. One more. All right. Yay. Okay.
All right, so these pieces were actually a commission for a client, a customer, and they are hollow, and they are done on multiple resists. And a resist is, a piece of plastic so that you can do wool on both sides and then remove the resist so you can create a hollow form.
Mm.
So the technique I used in this is with the resist together is a technique that I did in a workshop with Anna Gunnarsdottir from Iceland, and so I've explored that a little more and made it my own with these sculptures. And these represent architectural structures, and they will be part of a series that I'll be continuing with my new body of work.
Hmm. Someone in the chat room is asking that mentioned that she saw someone else teaching the class, the pod class, that she had learned from you. And as an artist behind the actual
Who is
design,
that?
yeah, who is that? She was wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah, it is something that I do get asked, and as a teacher, I do give 100%. I don't hold back little bits and pieces because I feel that if I weren't comfortable with other people going out and making these forms, that I shouldn't be teaching it. As far as somebody else teaching it, I've made hundreds, several hundred of these pods, and I can troubleshoot. I can be in a workshop and predict. I can look at what someone's doing and say, if you don't do A, B, or C, then this is going to happen. So somebody else going on and teaching that will not have the level of experience I have. I would hope that they would also perhaps put their own twist on it, or at the very least mention that she did take a workshop with me. Frankly, I think that people will see that and know that anyway, as this person speaking recognizes that they are derivative of what I do. So you know what, I'm okay with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people ask and sometimes they don't, and but it's just something as an instructor who's giving away these techniques, you have to be okay with that. And there is I didn't invent many of these things. Someone could have been doing it at the same time I am. So it's you have to decide you don't really have ownership over these things.
Yesterday, when you and I were having chatting and doing our dress rehearsal, so to speak, I asked you what's your favorite tool. I think someone on Facebook said, "What's your favorite tool?" And you said what? What was your answer?
I said these. I have 10 of them. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. There's nothing to read the wool better than your own fingers. Chris White, the author of Uniquely Felt and the owner of my sponsor, New England Felting Supply, speaks about a dialogue with the wool, and that you have to learn the language of each wool, and you have to really be in tune with the materials. And really, the only way for me to do that is to really be in touch with those materials.
Well, that image that we have of you standing by your work, I'm hoping that we can get that popped up here. And the name of it was Magnum
Basculum.
Basculum. What does that represent?
Oh, sometimes there isn't a big idea behind a certain piece. It might just be, that's a different piece you have up now. That's a different one.
Go back, try another one, Victoria.
We'll find it. We'll find it. Anyway, I'll keep talking about it. It's an extension of just my pod forms. Those ones in particular are hollow. So they're very
strong pieces. And when it's in its installation, how How tall is that from?
Well, I mean, from the felted rope to the tail, I mean, they're probably, 10 feet or something. So, I mean, the pod form itself, they're probably about 4 feet. There's 3 of them, and they're of varying lengths. And I love the monochromatic. Well, I mean, there is a variety of different grays in there, and there is a bit of contrast. But the space that was actually at the Mississippi Valley Textile Museum in Almont, just outside of, there it is, just outside of our capital in Ottawa, and it's just a spectacular space. And I knew when I was in that space I needed to hire a professional photographer and really get it documented. So,
well, we can talk a little bit about that later, but I was saying to you yesterday how important, we see it, through Fiber Art now with the magazine. We see so many people send us their images of their amazing work. But if I could give one piece of advice to any artist, it would be take the opportunity to have a professional photographer shoot your work, because it just makes such a difference when we try to share it on our social media, or of course use it in the magazines. We really it can mean the difference of me not showing somebody's work or showing somebody's work on Facebook. We get everybody requests that, and I want to. I very much am mindful about helping share work of other artists, because it's marketing work is so important to get people launched. But all I could say is get a good photographer to make that investment. Yeah. All right, so let's see. I wanted to also talk about on your webpage, and I don't think we have a picture of this, Victoria, but we'll just put Andrea up there. How's that? On your webpage, there is a video. Your website. There's a video about your cleaning house piece. That is so powerful. Do you want to describe that a little bit?
Sure. That particular piece are 3 structures, and they're on a metal frame that I had fabricated, so each one is on a separate metal grid, and the materials were then assembled onto those frames and installed. So I have to redo it every time it's installed. And one of the pieces is cotton mops. So I bought about 100 cotton mop heads from a janitorial supply and took them to Toronto and had them commercially dyed. And the other one is steel wool, so little balls of steel wool that are placed. I think there's about 700 of them. And the other one is our latex gloves, black latex Gorilla gloves. And they were flipped inside out because I liked the inside finish more than the outside. And then, of course, kind of puffed up so they weren't all wrinkly, and were all clipped on the frame. And there's, I think, close to 1,000 of those. So what I like about that piece as well is it's different, depending on where I install it. It'll look different every time, and I'm actually hoping soon to have that installed in an exhibition in Toronto, and I've had interest in New York. So right now it's in a storage unit that I had to rent because my studio space, the ceiling's not high enough. So, yeah. So the concept
was really powerful, I thought.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The meaning, the meaning of why you chose this, and you talk about the termites.
Yeah.
And how their waste is their structure. Yeah.
Yeah, so they emulate the form of African termite mounds, and they were actually inspired by those hollow multiple form structures. So it's just kind of an extension of home and house, and that's what my new body of work will be about as well. That I'll be showing in Italy and in Montreal, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit too. So I mean, the title Cleaning House is kind of a call to consider how much waste we generate, and the termite mounds. I mean, the termites use waste to build their homes, whereas we just create waste at an exponential rate. So it's just kind of a call to consider that.
I know Victoria posted on our chat the link to that video. When you get it, I encourage all our guests to go watch it, because it really is a thought-provoking piece. And
it's only, the video is only 5 minutes long, so.
Yeah, right. Marcia's mentioning that she recently saw a fiber art piece from the 70s in Boston, at ICA Boston, and she said it reminded her of this piece.
Oh, wow. I'll be seeing that show, Marcia, so I'll be coming down to Boston. I look forward to seeing it. Great.
Yeah, that show in Boston just sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm excited. People across the country have been messaging and talking about it on Facebook. So it sounds great. We want to see lots of Instagram pictures, please, everybody. We want to encourage that.
Right.
So one of the questions I know from our team was, do you feel that fiber artists are generally focused or hyper-focused on materials over meaning, or compared to other mediums, do you think that their material, I mean, materials are just so powerful, but it's our everyday materials. Oh, yeah, here we go. We're getting felting supply right up here, right now. Thank you. Yes, talk about materials. Here we go. Look at that. That's fantastic. Also, do you feel that fiber artists are focused on their materials?
I think people that choose textile and fibers in particular are drawn to those materials, and I think they're really integral to them. I know for myself, I've explored all kinds of different types of mediums in artwork, and really, oh gosh, it was like having an itch I couldn't scratch. Nothing really quite satisfied me away. Really, I couldn't really get my teeth into it. When I would paint, I would put as much paint as I could on the canvas, because I needed to be able to feel it and touch it. And so when I found felt making, it was like being in love. I tossed and turned. I was obsessed. And my children were very young, so any moment I had that I could work with the wool, I would just steal aside time to do so. So I think in general, and I seem to sense that passion for the material in textile artists more. Really, you don't hear that from painters. Oh my gosh, the oil paint, I love it, it smells so great. You don't hear that kind of passion for the material that you seem to. And for me too, the connection and the gratitude for the animals and the people that get those materials to us. I have a strong feeling that way too, and I think more so than in other mediums. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so do you have a piece that you're most proud of?
Piece I'm most proud of. It's usually the most recent piece. So I mean, there are pieces that I think for me were kind of touchstones or milestones or periods of time in which I created a piece that kind of took me on a certain path. One of those pieces I would have to say would be the series I did called Liberatio Captivis, and they're often shared on Pinterest and whatnot, or they're the wool around the branches, the driftwood, those pieces. So, they're not complex, they're not some, felt making, oh my gosh, how did she do that? Like, I just think they resonate with people, and I love the simplicity, and that really kind of kicked off a whole, that's really identifiable as my work, and I find that everything that kind of went from that point on, I really felt that I really kind of solidified my own voice in this material.
Yeah. Well, I think I told you the first time we spoke that you did a piece with the trees and the roots and the rocks, and it was early when felting was I don't know, grabbing my attention, and it was that piece that just was like an arrow to my felted heart, passion, just sent that. So it's interesting to see how you've used wood and these driftwood branches, whereas the wood before you was felt itself. I don't know, the evolution. I should have asked you for an image of that today, but I'll never forget it. It's just one of the images that will stay stuck with me. So let's see. I know everybody keeps wanting to know a little bit about your workplace. I know this is... So we gave it a try. As I mentioned early on, we don't have lots of fancy cameras, but we are going to do it.
I don't have a grip and a dolly. I don't have people here to fix this. But what I'll do is I can take my little webcam and I can take you on a little tour. It might be a little jumpy, but we'll work with what we've got. So
as long as we do it slow, we've got it. Okay.
Terrific. Oh, lost my headphone. So someone also I noticed there was a question about what kind of wool I like to use for my pods, and you can use anything, but like I said, my favorite is that short fiber merino from New England Felting Supply. That's my favorite. So all right. So that said, I will take you. Yeah. I just happened to peek. So all right. I will grab my little webcam here, and I will start over. Let's see. I'll start at one side, and we'll work our way around. So I'm going to start here. So we got my doorway. This is when you enter my studio. I have my felting machine, and I use it exclusively for scarves. I don't put anything else on there because I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to my felt, and I like to control it. So here we have my double sinks, which when I first moved into the studio space, I didn't have sinks, but it worked just fine. So I have kind of a countertop here, and I took out some sculptures to kind of show you how big they are as well. And my window is something I had put in. My studio kind of happened in increments. So first it was the space, then it was the window, then it was the sinks. Okay, so I'm going to come around here. I have some.
I love the color. Anything about orange that's...
Oh, you know what? I don't know why I picked orange. I think it's just, kind of fun. So I like a sparse space and I like a clean space, so I prefer to have things covered up. So we have my IKEA shelves that I just put some fabric on. Okay, I'm going to get out of the camera here so we can continue. So I have my IKEA kind of cube shelves here that I store a lot of my wool in, because for a couple of reasons. First of all, I like to see everything. It's inspiring. And also moths and other bugs and things don't like light, and they don't like movement. So it's easy for me to access my wool and keep it moving and make sure I'm pest-free. So let me go around the corner here.
Wow.
And I have a painting. This is a painting that I commissioned from a local artist.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And then I have a storage space here behind that curtain, so I can store extra bits. And then we have my other shelves over, where am I? Here, hold on a minute here. Here we go, towards the doorway there. I've got another set of shelves where I have a little bit of a library, and of course more wool. That's my C1 Pelcel from New England Felting Supply that I use for bags and for what else? Bags and purses. So yeah, and on my little dress form there, I just have some teaching samples and whatnot that I just haven't put away yet. So yeah,
what a treat!
I should actually show you as well my tables. So I have here a large 8-foot table. But then also at the end of here, I have another table that I can kind of elongate my one table, but I can also move it away from the side if I have a student that's working with me. And then, of course, I can also move my table that my machine is on if need be. so that I can have more space. So
I know you do
great.
you do Skype classes.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about your workshops and things you have going on.
Okay, so I do on occasion, in between traveling, I can teach by webcam. So I have, of course, my one webcam that I can put on a tripod that I can move so we can do close-up, and then I have my laptop webcam that I can just kind of speak face-to-face. So, you know, one day we kind of split over 2 days, and the fact that it's working in different time zones and things like that, it's very easy for me to do from home. It's yeah, it works out really well. So, and then I have my workshop travel teaching will begin again in April and go until the weather turns for the worse next fall. So, yeah.
Are you in your studio every day? Do you make an appointment with yourself like we go to our job, or?
You know, I hate to say this, but there will sometimes be weeks where I don't actually make it into the studio. I work every day. I work long hours every day, but so much of my arts practice has nothing to do with making art. And I'm sure a lot of other professional artists can speak to this, where there's so much marketing and writing proposals and grant writing and administration, and there's just a lot of that stuff that goes on. So that's another reason why time in the studio for me is purposeful. When I come, I know what I'm doing. I get it done. I have a really good idea of how long each thing will take me, and so that's how I work. But I have I now over the next few months have to be creating this body of work for my 2 solo exhibitions. So I might spend 2 weeks where I'm down here every day from, you know, all day long, and then work again in the evening. My day is generally broken up because I have family, so to cook for and whatnot. Yeah.
How did you initially start showing your work in galleries?
It's a pretty organic process in the sense that I think many people starting will find out. Someone will say, "Oh, I have a friend and she owns a shop and she would love your things," and you know, it kind of starts from there. And knowing if you are actually being strategic and you say, "Yes, I want my work to be in a gallery," it involves a lot of research. So figuring out if your work will fit in, what other artists they have, is your work technically on par, is it artistically on par? So it does involve a fair bit of research. And what I'll often do is early on, if there was a gallery I wanted to approach, I would send them an email and say, you know, I'm interested in submitting work to your gallery. Can you please advise me as to your process? And then I would put a link to my website. So you might, you know, right away you might get an email that says, "Great, I'd love to see your work, bring it in, can I arrange a studio visit?" Or you might get a, "We're not taking anybody right now." So you know that they've probably looked at your art, looked at your link, and so it's a good way to start.
Sometimes it's a little I think intimidating or frightening. One time I had a piece of work, this was many years ago, and it, you know, it was an auction with a lot of very big people, big name people in the community attending, and when I gave them my piece, they said, "Oh, we're going to put this on the live auction." And so then as soon as they said that, I started to sweat because I knew I'd have to sit there and hope that somebody would even bid on my piece while I sat there. It was,
wow.
I'll never forget it. And I was very fortunate when a state senator bought my piece. I went, "Oh, thank goodness."
Yeah, you feel pretty exposed. You know, we work in a field where, I mean, what we do really is an extension of ourselves. So often those things can feel very personal, and it's kind of a lesson to learn to separate yourself. So, yeah.
Well, that's so true.
Yeah.
So let's see. I want to know. You talked a little bit about what you have coming up for the future. I saw something online about an event in Italy, Verona,
Yes.
Look at
Yeah.
you smile when you talk about it.
I know. Well, I had the privilege of last year in October, I had a solo exhibition in Prato, Italy for DHG, which is a company out of Italy, the Dye House Gallery, which has amazing, beautiful luxury fibers, which now will be carried as well at New England Felting Supply.
Yay.
So,
That's good
I
to
mean,
hear.
cashmere in dyed colors, I mean, it's just so delicious. Anyway, I absolutely fell in love with Italy. I love Florence. I love Prato. So when the owner of DHG, her name is Gaia, contacted me and said that the organizers of an event in Verona, the event is called Verona Textile, were interested in me putting on a solo exhibition in in a church in the city center in Verona. So I'm really excited. So
Wow.
that's what I'll be working on. And I had already booked a solo exhibition at the Canadian Guild of Craft in Montreal. And that gallery is the oldest gallery in Canada, and they have a tremendous Inuit collection. It's a very fine gallery. And I was collected by the Bronfmans for their Claridge Corporate Art Collection through this gallery. So this is an important show for me, and that was already booked. But it's great because I'll have the opportunity to use the same body of work for both shows. So that's what I'm going to be working on now, long hours until I begin my travel in March and April, because that'll have to be done by then. So.
Do you have any trouble with the visas and getting things back and forth, or teaching over even, over in the United States?
Well, I am extremely fortunate in that I possess a U.S. visa. It's called an O1 visa, and it's for people who are deemed to have extraordinary talent. So it was expensive to obtain and very time-consuming. And I know that there are teachers that have had difficulty entering the U.S. But yeah, so it's a complex situation. So. Yeah.
Well, we do know you have extraordinary talent.
Well, I had to convince Homeland Security of that, and they don't know anything about feltmaking. So.
Well, let's see. I want to see what picture. Oh yeah, there's a list of places where Andrea, if you go to her website, where she'll be showing, and how to reach Andrea, see her workshops. I know I usually like to wrap up with this one question, because we, Fiber Art Now, we're always looking at where the textile community is going, the contemporary artisans are taking us. So where do you see the future of fiber arts headed?
Oh, that's a really very broad field. So I think I'm gonna speak specifically to felt making. What I've really noticed, and this does tie in a lot with the international teaching, is, and also with the internet and the availability of images and people sharing images, is there tends to be this kind of homogeneous feel to a lot of the work. I'm also seeing international teachers that are going all over in teaching, and I think there's going to be kind of, it's going to swing to the other side, where I think people will be looking less outward, maybe to other people's work, and turn back inward. I'm hoping, and I think people are workshops, and they want to learn all these tricks, and they want to learn all these techniques. When I'm hoping that it's just going to get back to doing the art, and not about all the tricks, and about the material, and about ideas and concepts, and that's what I'm hoping.
I think your word that you said to begin with is being purposeful. And I think just generally being purposeful about where we travel, traveling, bringing our food to where we are, all those, being mindful and purposeful about what we're eating, all those.
Yeah, and what we say, and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. That's a good point.
Thanks.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time today to show us and share with us all these fantastic inspiring pieces.
Thank you. It's really been my pleasure, and I really want to thank Fiber Art Now magazine. They've been, you know, really supportive, and I'm really glad they've really filled a spot that we needed to fill as far as publication. So I appreciate that, and your help, and all the staff and everyone. So you're all fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Well, and of course, New England Felt Supply for being supportive from day one when we launched the magazine. So thank you again, New England Felt Supply. And I said before I got on here I wouldn't say and I think I've said and about.
I'm sure I've said it too. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and have a nice Thanksgiving up there.
I will. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.